Such an amazing introduction. I thinking that I should have invited my mom to this session. She would have been super proud to see this great introduction. So thank you, Lizzie. So yeah, I'm kind of be more excited and happy to be able to moderate this truly stellar panel of cross-media measurement and marketing mix modeling experts. So we have Sam Carter from FOSBA. Please go on stage. Yeah. We have Johan Miró from Salesforce. Also, welcome, Johan. We have Joan Miró from Kraz. Also, welcome, Joan. And last but obviously not least, we have also Michael Kaminski from Recast. So great. So yeah, thank you all, not only for being today with us, but also more broadly for the work that you do as measurement partners, for challenging us to do things better, and also for the work that you do with advertisers to help them make better informed decisions. So as a kind of warm-up, introductory question, I would like to know if you were asked to do like a 1-minute pitch about your company, how would you describe your measurement services and the value that you provide to advertisers? Who want to go first? Sam, you will, yeah.
I should have sat at the other end. Hi, I'm Sam. So in 1 minute, so you heard a little bit about this before, but our approach to MMM is to address the gaping chasm in capabilities in attribution these days as a result of privacy changes, iOS 14 onwards, and all the myriad things that everyone here will have experienced and suffered. So, I mean, simply put, it's not possible to do the jobs that you once could with attribution, and we're really focused on how MMM can fill the gap, particularly with full funnel and upper funnel measurement. So that's our focus. We fall into the kind of the MMM SaaS side of the equation, and we're very, very focused on retail e-commerce, where there's lots of digital spend, lots of digital sales. The main value is giving our clients 10 times better measurement than they get with last click, and we get started in about 2 weeks, so it's very, very fast. And there's two main sort of jobs that we do. One, apples to apples comparison of performance between channels, and helping them understand how much headroom they have to profitably grow. Was that a minute?
Strong, and in just 1 minute, so yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Oh, now it's working. Hello, everybody. My name is Juha. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Salesforce. We are focused on marketing mix modeling for retail and e-commerce and D2C brands. And I would say short description of Salesforce. We are intelligent MMM SaaS service. Okay, what does each of these mean? Intelligent means that we are not running MMM in isolation. So as everybody in this group knows, the results are only as good as the data and the priors that go into the model. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so kind of we are very focused on the data integration part. So not only running MMM in isolation, but integrating all of the data that the customer has available in the model calibration. So ad platform attribution data, MTA data, Google Analytics data, you have everything integrated. That's our goal. MMM SaaS, because it's a technology, not a consultancy. So there's a strong technology in the background. And service is that we are not leaving the customer alone. Here is the product, go run with it. No, we are going to give you access to our customer success managers and data scientists who ensure that the model is configured correctly and you are like good to go with great results.
And we see you love impact, as we all do.
I love impact, and we love impact. And I feel physically sick if customer has bad quality MMM results. So that's why they never have. And we are going to drip every piece of blood, tears, and sweat to kind of get to the great quality. That's a promise. Okay.
Super, Juha. Thank you very much. I'm Joan Miró, coming from Kraz in Spain, Barcelona. And so as a company based in Barcelona, Kraz, we are focused into helping all the marketers in having a better performance by using the correct way all the marketing data they have. So we do work with several areas, several vectors, like having all these attribution models, having also segmentation models, having scoring, having little all the tools, and amongst them there is one very important for us, which is marketing mix modeling. And marketing mix modeling, which is a key aspect for all the marketers to really understand what's the impact on the return on the investments that they do on marketing, and that's a great question that we help them to solve. Our focus is more on the consultancy mode, so we do have a SaaS also product that we consider that it's kind of the cherry of the cake, but the whole cake for us is also having the consultancy, so understanding well what is the issue, what is the thing that we need to solve, making sure that all the data is in place and making sure that the data is right and it's correct, and all this journey, and making sure that we deliver them a tool that they can play with and they can help to take decisions and to really work on a scenario planning for taking better decisions. So we are a mix of consultancy plus then a SaaS solution to deliver results to the client.
Great, thank you, Joan. And Michael?
There we go. Okay. I'm Michael. I'm one of the co-founders and co-CEOs of Recast. Recast is, like all of my companions here, MMM SaaS platform. When I think about the things that make us potentially different from other vendors in the space and other tools, is we really put a lot of emphasis on three things. So the first is speed and actionability. How fast can we get fresh model results and then actually use those out in the market to go change our marketing mix and drive results for the business. Second is on transparency. How can we make it not a black box, but a glass box that we can actually see into and understand what this model is doing? And the last and really most important piece, in my opinion, is validation and validity of the model results, right? How do we know that these results are actually correct and that we can use them for decision making, or is it just random numbers coming out of the end of this black box? And that's a thing that we put a lot of emphasis on and care a lot about at Recast.
Great, amazing. So I have a long list of questions that the team and we wanted to ask you. I know there is a lot of things that should be super relevant to our audience. So I wanted to go in order. The first thing that I wanted to understand from you is more about the context of the industry, and what are the main challenges that you see in the work that you are doing with clients with regard to cross-media measurement. And what are the key challenges that you are helping them face or solve? How would you do this? How would you describe?
We're going left to right every time. we'll have to shake it up. I'll go left to right, and then we'll check it up on the next question. Yeah, perfect. Honestly, and it's kind of faintly depressing to say this, the challenge is pixel-based attribution, and the notion that pixel-based attribution can be the foundation for making good full funnel measurement decisions, and that hasn't really changed. It might have been marginally less of a problem, and we've had a bit of a regression because of the impact that the privacy changes has had on the quality of that, and I suppose some broader market condition stuff. The CFO getting more involved in decision making, and CFOs kind of understanding last click attribution because they're not experts, but for whatever reason, we are still in this kind of regress state where pixel-based attribution is being used for sort of planning cross-channel media budgets, and that's the main thing that we're trying to disrupt. If not everybody's in that state, if you've progressed to sort of a more mature state than that, I think George touched on it before, but and Elsa too. You might be grappling with how do I deploy complementary approaches alongside each other. So from the sort of the more traditional sort of 6-monthly, very holistic MMM project to the sort of the short-term attribution and the sort of the approach to testing, and how do you both adopt a strategy across those things, and how on earth do you select a supplier? That I think they're probably the sort of the things that people are grappling with at the top end of the maturity scale.
Yeah, I would echo that. There is no single source of truth for marketing incrementality. There is no. there is not one number that the customer can say that this is now the truth. That is the problem. And if there is this number, you cannot find this one number for all of the channels that you are investing in. So I think that is the problem we are trying to really help our customers.
Yeah, as a challenge for us, sometimes it is to focus on the bottom of funnel, but also to have answers on the middle of funnel, on the top of funnel. So really having the right answers in every stage of the funnel, I think it's a difficult thing that marketers face, and that we face as a company that help marketers in measuring each of the impact of their advertising in each of these stages. So that is a challenge that marketers face, and that we help them in solving it.
Yeah, I think maybe to take a slightly different spin on this question, I think there's in addition to what everyone shared, I think there's two problems that I spend a lot of time thinking about in this space that we sort of face as an industry. And one is an understanding of incrementality and what does that mean? Like everyone in this room, I think, grasps incrementality at a deep level. But when you go and you talk to executives, and even very sophisticated companies, like it doesn't really click for them. What are we actually trying to measure here? And what are the pros and cons of different measurement methods trying to capture that idea, especially if you've come up in the last 10 or 15 years and like you're just used to looking at last touch attribution reports. Like the idea of incrementality can feel very foreign, and there's a lot of education that needs to happen. And then the other thing that I think everyone in this room has probably struggled with is getting people to understand uncertainty and the implications of that. The problem with incrementality is that there is a true incrementality value out there in the universe. We just can't ever know what it is. And so the best that we can do is approach that with statistical methods, and those generally come along with uncertainty. And so getting people to understand that like uncertainty is a fact of life, and we're always going to be uncertain, and we have to make decisions even in face of that. I think that that's a real challenge for everyone who's operating in the field of marketing right now, and trying to find the right balance between people hate uncertainty, like let's not tell them about it, versus like actually telling them the truth about there is meaningful uncertainty in all of these different methods, and we have to figure out how to make decisions in the face of that.
Yeah. A lot of very relevant points that you touched. So I have my 5 takeaways from the discussion. So you mentioned about the limitation of pixel-based attribution being one of the main challenges. Then you said that there is no single source of truth, which is obviously a very important one. Then the full funnel measurement, the reality that you need to approach measurement with a full funnel scope. And finally, you touched 2 very relevant things as well. One is the fact that you need to embrace incrementality and to develop a strong understanding of what incrementality means for organizations, and then to be able to manage uncertainty, which is always a challenge, but I agree is very, very important nowadays. So, of course, we have to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. It's a panel about MMM innovation, so it's a point that we have to touch. And I would love to understand from your practitioner's experience, what are the IA kind of techniques that are being used and the value that they are providing in order to surpass the traditional methods that have been used historically on MMM? Maybe you, Michael.
Yeah, I'll start. So people ask me this all the time about AI, and the first thing that I have to say is that it really depends on what you mean by AI. In the last couple of months, when people say AI, often they mean like ChatGPT and large language models. And I'll answer for those. I don't think that they have that much impact on how MMMs are being done. I think you can use them to like read documentation and explain things and, help to understand marketers' prior beliefs. But as far as actually estimating a model, I think there's a lot less impact there just because of the way that those models work. If you broaden AI to include, machine learning in general, I think there's, a lot of ways that it has impacted MMM, especially in libraries like Robin. And then also, if you broaden the definition of AI even further to include methods for estimating Bayesian models like Hamiltonian Monte Carlo, then a huge impact as we start to think about how can we estimate much more complex models that do a better job of capturing the relevant details of reality within some reasonable amount of compute time. And that has taken us from a world where people were, in the 90s and before estimating like very simple linear regressions on, very small data sets to a world where we can estimate much more complex models much more efficiently and, human scale time. And I think that is what has sort of sparked part of the renaissance in MMM is the ability to actually do that.
And I would mention that beyond all the AI contribution to a faster execution of the models and to a better conversion or conversions into a specific solution and all of that, still the human factor is there in MMM. Still there is a need to choose what variables you put in there, what combination of variables you will bring into the model, and what things you will put and you will not put into the model. And I have the feeling that still there is a lot of crafting and there is a lot of caring and there is a lot of curation on the models that needs to be there, because many decisions need to be made, and it's the nose of the data scientist, and it's the, let's say, the activity, the expertise that need to be there. And so AI is there for all the technical things, but still the model need to have a human person with a good criteria and take many decisions to drive the model towards a satisfactory end.
And thanks God, because that's why we have a job. Otherwise,
that's true.
Yeah. So maybe Juha, Sam, you want to add something here?
Very smart answers already from previous speakers, so I have not much to add. Other than I personally think this is not the this is primarily a data integration challenge that we are trying to solve here.
Yeah.
Trying to make it very easy for new customers to plug their data in. So if every customer in this webinar could start today, don't need to spend any of their own time and pay no money. I think we would have many more companies using marketing mix modeling, won't we, right? So it's a data integration challenge, and that's where 80% of the time often goes. And otherwise, I completely agree with the previous speakers.
I guess it helps that we're focused on retail e-commerce primarily because the data availability is better, like more digital channels and more online sales. So actually, the speed of the opportunity for real-time processing is something that is now possible where once it was not. I guess also the cost of compute was touched on a bit earlier, but the idea that you could run multiple models ranging from linear models for simple trends, neural networks for complex relationships, time series for seasonality, and NLP for sort of sentiment concurrently. For a mid-sized e-commerce business 10 years ago would have been unfathomable. So just actually the cost and the ability to compute the stuff now, I think, has been essentially what's happened is it's significantly lowered the bar in terms of being able to access MMM cost-wise, and incredibly raised it in terms of the frequency with which you can expect to get MMM results, and that's a pretty phenomenal thing. I just because we started talking about large language models, and I'll bookend it. I think there's one interesting application here that we're very focused on exploring, and that's more around sort of explainability of complex models to non-experts. So the ability for a large language model to most of our product sort of the starting point is dashboards for people who love dashboards, and more often than not, particularly as we sort of think about the relationship between marketing and finance and the board and the CEO, and that becomes more and more important. The ability to explain this complex stuff in a format, in their flow of work, in a format they understand, has increased, and that's where I think AI offers some pretty interesting opportunities.
I think in line with all that you said, I think one of the main impacts or benefits of new technologies, artificial intelligence and MMM, is basically that this is creating MMM or making MMM affordable for businesses of all sizes. And back to what George was saying in the beginning, he said in the 90s, I work on MMM, but only with super large CPG advertisers that spend millions of dollars every single month on advertising. And now the access to MMM is much more democratized. And related to this, I would love to understand or to learn more about your experience working with maybe with the smaller businesses that maybe don't have like this super large advertising budget that obviously are super interested in getting the most out of the money they are investing on advertising. Are you somehow changing your approach when you are working with those companies? What are your experience in this area? I know I know Salesforce, Fosba, and also you, Rikas, has a lot of experience in this area. I'm less familiar with Kraz in this particular thing, but who want to go first?
I can talk a little bit about it. So I think, maybe you're going to bring an opinion that people don't really want to hear at this, but I think it's really hard to do MMM successfully if you're a really small business. I think MMM, I say this a lot, MMM is the worst way to measure marketing. It's just so hard to get right. It requires a lot of education internally about how to use it. Validation is really hard. There's lots of ways for it to go wrong. And so I think really small companies, sometimes they're see the promise of MMM. They're not really well staffed internally to make use of it or to be able to correct the model or all of the other things that go along with that. And so I think it's really challenging. I often, the advice that I normally give to smaller businesses is to start with whatever you're doing now, some sort of digital tracking, then layer on experimentation, which I think is a nice stepping stone, and then only bring on MMM once you've exhausted those routes and you feel okay, now we have problems that are worth investing substantial amounts of time or money, and often both, which is what it takes to generally make an MMM successful. And so in general, I think with smaller companies, it's you want to start with things that are less complicated, that are easier to not mess up. Start with that. Things like experimentation, things like go dark tests, where we're going to just turn off a channel for a couple weeks. That stuff is a great way to get started, and that variability can then feed into your MMM project later on down the road. And so I would say start with that before you try to do the really complex stuff, which just, again, I've just seen it go wrong so many different times that I always worry about, it's oh, we've got an analyst and he's going to spend 30% of his time on MMM. That's a real risk for you as a business.
I'd offer a slightly different. I agree with a lot of that. There is obviously a threshold below which it doesn't make sense, and also I think that too often people skip the requirement to get their house in order and expect technology providers to do that for them. So actually, am I executing good creativity in my adverts? We can't solve for that. We can measure an advert and whether we can tell you whether it was good or not. We can't tell you whether you're doing a great job at your brand strategy. So there are some fundamentals that you need to get right first. But I also think that if you're small, firstly, it kind of self-regulates a bit because we tend to find that smaller brands have less complexity, so that you have fewer channels, simpler objectives. So actually, the cognitive overload of a very large enterprise MMM engagement, you do need a large team to get your head around. A smaller business, you've probably got a simpler channel mix, a simpler sales and marketing channels, and so complexity does self-regulate a little bit, and then also I guess MMM it can be very, very broad, ranging from the traditional perception of once a year I run this behemoth of a project and it gives me my entire strategy for the year. That's at one extreme. At the other extreme, it's just can you show me the relationship between meta brand impressions and traffic and sales through organic search? The latter is a problem that businesses, anyone spending more than $100,000 a month in cross-channel media needs to be able to answer that second question, and MMM can help. You don't need to skip straight the way through to full holistic behemoth project MMM to get started on your journey.
Great. So if you had asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have been on the same camp with Michael over there. But now I think I'm more aligned with Sam because, what are the problems you need to solve to kind of automate this whole process? You need to first automate the data integrations, data connectors part. Then you need to automate the data processing part. Then you need to automate the model calibration and model setup part. And then you need to automate this insights gathering part in the end. And we have been investing a lot as a company for the past 6 years on all of these topics, and kind of now you can actually connect the data under 15 minutes using native data connectors in the product. All the data processing is automated until the kind of model calibration. You can even auto-calibrate the model if you have solved the data integration problem of basically connecting MTA, Google Analytics experiments into this one big media master data cube. And that's it. You have automated the MMM problem. Still, the customer needs to have your consultant so to tell and to create trust that, hey, all of these things have been done. So I'm not saying that this everything is happening kind of for a layman user. This is like pure self-service. This is not reality today. So people still need to have this like customer success and consultants to kind of really guide them through to the results and get the trust. But otherwise, I would argue that this automation problem has, for the large part, already been solved.
So you have the hardest one now. So what to say now?
No, what I would say is that for a small business, there is no way to do sort of quick and dirty MMM, so to speak. I mean, an MMM is an MMM. For a large business or for a small one, I mean, it's a process. You need to collect all the data that can affect your sales and collect all the marketing activities, and you need to do a model. And the hard part is that for a small business, to do an MMM for a small business is almost the same to do for a larger business. It's a different scale, but the process is the same. So the hard part for a small business is that they need to collect all this information. They need to pay for the cost of the MMM the same way than a large business. So that's the challenge for a small business to go into the MMM. On the other side, we can tell the small business, hey, you'll be like the big brother thing, because you'll be doing a thing that before only the big ones could do, and now even a small business can do and can work with super technology to help you to take these type of decisions that before you weren't even invited to the party, and now you are, and now you can do it. But it has a cost of collecting this information and all of that.
I think, actually the question was challenging because there are two things that has to be considered. First is what is a small business? It depends. And the second thing, and for me probably the most important, is how important it is to understand how your cross-media performing is working, cross-media investments are working, and to what extent you are going to take decisions based on these outcomes. Because in the future, you are going to spend more if you are able to demonstrate that it is giving business outcomes. Then it makes sense to do the investment, but you are going to still invest in like 80% in one single channel. So yeah, we have time for one more question. And actually, I wanted to ask something which is related to this discussion as well, which is the fact that obviously, we talk a lot about making MMM super accurate, which is obviously important, but the main thing is that we have some impact on decision making. And one thing that we learn in our collaboration work with advertisers is that driving internal trust is key. And the people that are usually managing the models are not the same that are taking decisions. So my question to you, last one, and probably the toughest one, is how do you manage to drive impact on decision making, and how are you driving some sort of MMM results validation? So you can tell advertisers you should trust these results. Yeah.
I started. Okay. So I think what you said about getting to trust, I think is 100%. That's the only way you're going to get people to take action is if they actually trust it. And they're like, I'm not, if I follow these results, am I going to get fired or am I going to get a promotion? That's the thing that any marketer is going to be thinking about when they're looking at the results. And so before taking action, you have to build trust. And the only way to get value out of an MMM is if you're taking action. So I think that's exactly the right connection. At Recast, we think about sort of a couple of different ways of building that trust and doing that validation of the model. So one is corroborating the results from the MMM with other types of experiments. And these could be conversion lift studies that you might run with a partner like Meta. They could be geo holdout experiments, or even just like go dark, where we're going to turn off the channel. And then we want to see, does the revenue during that time period, or do the results of that test line up with what the MMM model is saying? And I think to the extent that they consistently line up, that builds a lot of trust. The other thing that we do at Recast is we put a lot of emphasis on out-of-sample holdout accuracy, which is to say, being able to predict the future on data that the model hasn't ever seen before. To the extent to which you can consistently predict the future and consistently call the shot on, hey, this is what is going to happen if you follow this budget, that just builds a lot of trust internally. And again, it becomes self-reinforcing if you're doing this on a regular cadence where people are changing the budget, revenue comes in where it was expected, they do that again, happens again. That starts to build trust in the organization to take bigger swings off of what the MMM is saying. And that's what we found is sort of that whole process is required for success with a media mix model.
I would add that in an MMM process, it's very important to set up the right expectations. So part of the work you need to do in advance in telling what things MMM will answer, but what things will not answer, and how this thing, as you have was mentioning, that's another view. It's a whole different set of tools that you have, and MMM will be another one that will help you understand the rest of it. It will be like a referee of the other tools. So setting up the right expectations really solve most of the issues you might have throughout the way, because many things happen and it's not a single number that you find. I mean, it's a process you need to discuss with clients. So setting up the expectations to me is a key thing.
Yeah.
So very good answers, and I can say that first of all, I want to say I love impact. Right. But there is no impact if the customer doesn't do any changes based on the MMM results, right? And there will be no changes if the customer doesn't trust the kind of what the MMM is suggesting. And then there's like how to acquire the trust. Then there's like I think there are like technical topics, technical questions, like Michael nicely pointed out. There are like more like this way working together. This like customer facing, like Juan pointed out. I would say we need to solve all of the issues, not just one, all of them. Customer needs to understand why the recommendations from the tool are what they are. They need to find some other supporting evidence from other tools. So if Google last click is disagreeing, but you need to get support then to your recommendation from the ad platform or experiment or your MTA. So some other supporting piece of evidence needs to be there to kind of, and we need to be able to tell in like layman terms why this is. Everybody needs to understand what the results are, why they are like that, and they need to make common sense. So if our recommendations don't make common sense, I would say more often than not, our model is wrong, not the common sense.
Depends on how common the sense is, I suppose.
Yeah. But common sense and the model, they need to meet.
I'd echo almost all that. Actually, all of that. I just then add that I suppose that one of the things that we focus on a lot is what are the jobs that marketers actually do with their measurement. There's and which part of that sort of testing, attribution, and MMM sort of triangle should they be using for each? Well, for us, like reporting, planning, optimization, like you could do reporting and optimization with attribution in the past, can't do it anymore. Like you cannot accurately report on business performance with a last click attribution model. So understanding the jobs that marketers need to do and making sure you're very focused. We're very focused with the product on those specific jobs and how and the role that MMM can play. That's one. I know we're running a little bit short time, so I'll wrap up reasonably quickly. Yeah, I mean you can focus all the time on how to educate the entire business on the intricacies of your model, and by the time you've done it, they'll have left and had a whole organizational change. So I would 100% echo what these guys say, which is it's all leading. What's the quickest I can get you to execute a test, and that's the moment that you show it to the FD, because they probably aren't listening to how the model works. They're just looking at the fact that you had impact, and the way in which you do that easily is by focusing on the stuff that is actually not very controversial. Most marketers know that their system of measurement is undervaluing upper funnel channels. They know it. They just can't convince people in the organization to unlock budget to do it. So focusing on the bits where you know that actually all that needs to happen is finance just need to have that sort of being tipped over into belief that they can invest in upper funnel in spite of their system of measurement. If you focus on those kind of things, then you can have impact pretty quickly.
So yeah, we are out of time. So thank you so much. I personally learned a lot, and I love also the fact that we have like different point of view on some of the questions, which was great as well, and I'm sure more relevant for the people following us. So round of applause for our great panel of experts.